All right, what is up, beautiful people? I hope you can hear me. I'm going to check the chat soon. I might spread the link a little bit here. Let's see. Okay, we are live. Good to go. Good to go. Live now. Heal all trauma with diet. Man, Facebook really doesn't want me to share this to the public. They keep asking me questions of, are you sure you want to share this to everybody? Yes, I'm sure I want to share this to everybody. Not that everybody wants to hear, but I'm damn sure, that I want to share this to everybody. Everybody who has an ear to listen, right? So let's see. What sparked this title? What is the title, right? Let's see. All trauma can be healed in the absence of poison. So what sparked this discussion was people were saying, Eugene, there's psychological trauma that can't be dealt with in the physical, with the physical body, with the food. Eugene, it's impossible. It's much deeper than that. And I agree. I agree that psychological trauma sometimes is worse than a physical trauma. However, let me ask you, where does that psychological trauma get stored? Where does the psychological trauma get stored? It can't be stored in counter space. The avatar, it gets stored in that mechanism, the SSD, right? The solid state drive, which is your organism. So really, if you think about it, regeneration, homeostasis, or a clear body and a clear mind is about a free flow of energy, right? So anything that obstructs the free flow of energy is some form of trauma, whether that be physical, whether that be psychological, whether that be metaphysical. It doesn't matter. That's the point I'm trying to get at. Because if we observe this point of view that, oh, we can't heal it. Oh, we can't reverse it. It's irreversible. There's nothing can be done, right, in our basic day-to-day living. Then that's laziness. That's incompetency. What we should be saying is, okay, what's the number one thing I should be doing to get this trauma out of my body? And guys, it is so simple. Stop eating acid. Stop eating processed fake foods, fake sugar. Stop eating carcass. Stop eating hybrids. Stop eating those things that impede the flow of electricity. It is just that simple. So what is trauma? A trauma is a cloggage in a certain point of your body that resists the flow of electricity. Right? So as long as we don't create tumors, metabolic waste buildup in the body, there we can deal with all the trauma. Because when you're physically 100%, mentally, oftentimes you're 100%. You're clear. Not always, you're right. But once you're physically clean, it's a lot easier to tackle your psychological traumas and to not make excuses that because I am psychologically traumatized, I have to keep eating shit food. And as long as I eat shit food, I will have shit attitude. I will have an entitled mindset that people deserve to treat me in any way. Yeah? So I love you guys, but don't come to me and say, and argue with my points of saying that the prerequisite to a spiritual path is to not eat any fucking poison. It is not personal to you, so stop taking it personal. When I'm speaking on my channel, essentially, I'm speaking to myself. I'm speaking so that in the future, I can look back and say, okay, this is the standard, this is the bar I've set. And so I'm just setting my bar, which is no acid, no poison. And perhaps when there's no acid and no poison, I can deal with things and I can dissolve traumas, solve the issues, right? I can create a solution. But as long as I escape my trauma, I will continue eating poison. This is why, again, the spiritual path, step one is to not be swine. That's step one, is to not ingest every single thing that's put in front of you and question it. Question what you're eating, everything that you're eating continually. I want to continually improve my food source because I know even the fruits I eat, right? Even the SEBI list things I'm eating are not as good as the iontophoresis herbs that I have to buy online. I'm sure there's a shaman or two around here in some corner who knows these Mexican herbs real well, who can give me a much better way out of things. But as long as I run from the first thing, the utmost importance, which is what I put in my mouth, what I put in my system, what I'm coding my genetics with, right? What I'm coding the computer with, as long as I run from the information I am putting down into my elementary digestive system, I am deluding myself. And as long as I'm deluding myself, the metabolic wastes in my body will keep piling on. And as long as the metabolic wastes keep piling on, there is no healing. So let's kind of give a beginner, medium, and difficult approach of healing. And let's go through what you should be thinking of. So in the beginning, I used to be eating cereal and milk, right? And Spam, fried rice with shit oil, and rice, which is cyanide glue, right? I used to be eating these things, okay? So I'm not saying I'm perfect by far, but that doesn't mean I'm going to stay there. So what was step one? Better meats, right? Grass-fed beef, fish from the ocean, right? More, less processed things. That's number one. Number two, which is what most of us are on right now, is limiting back hybrids. And then we start to intermittent fast. So perhaps 3 days out of a week, you're much more loose or ease, much more fruit or less eating at all, just water or just air, right? Because air is number one nutrition. People keep forgetting that. If you have enough air, you don't need food, okay? Or at least you need very little the more you breathe well. So again, at step two, we start to intermittent fast, because even in the longevity of animals and rats and stuff, they've already done tests showing that just by closing the window of eating, you increase the life. And same with worms. Just by having sex and not ejaculating, you increase life. But ejaculating, you lose life. So it's these kinds of things. It's keeping the energy within, cycling the energy within through all the body and getting to all of the deep crevices and holes that we haven't been getting to. So again, in the medium step, we start to examine the foods we're eating. We start to go more intermittent fasting and all of these things. Step three, the most difficult, that's when we're really focused on air and super light foods. We're talking, fruits on Sebi's list and one at a time, no fermentation. This is how you feed your dogs, is you feed them one thing at a time, because nature, its enzymes are not made to target multiple foods at once. So eventually you get to a point where, again, you really let your body focus on the food it's eating, appreciate the one food it's eating, and then you move on maybe a week or a month later. And at the same time, you're breathing a lot more. Lola, quiet. So all of these things. So in the beginning, I know it's tough, right? So first, just try to get the best that you can get of your knowledge, right? And then once you start to kind of improve there and you see, oh, okay, food has a direct correlation with my state of being and my psychology and my trauma or no trauma, right? Because if you're eating trash food, the trauma is going to keep resurfacing because you're not able to deal with it and heal it. So you're just recirculating the toxins, the poisons, whether that be a spiritual, metaphysical, psychological toxin, or it's a physical toxin. So I think the physical and the metaphysical are not split. They're one. So when we target and clean the physical, the metaphysical must be clean. Because really, if you go into it, it's a spiritual, metaphysical, psychological decision to say, I must clean up this mess. So when we have that, and when we start cleaning the body, it's reciprocating. So we don't see it as separate. They're together. That's why I'm saying take it easy on yourselves. And instead of trying to do all this methodology practice, breath work, meditation, all this bullshit practice, right? All this strengthening of my neurosis practice, start to look at the foods you're eating. Just observe them. Don't say, I shouldn't eat that. I shouldn't eat this. Just observe and eat. If you're still smoking, if you're still drinking, observe yourself when you smoke and drink. Just really take a look at it. Because that's how I dropped all those things, all those acidic habits, was I just observed them carefully. And I realized, I don't like this guy. I don't like this guy who's chugging soju bottles, who's chugging alcohol and going into clubs. I don't like this guy who's doing hookah and breathing in carbon monoxide and smoking jewels and all these electric vapes on the basis of my friends in an instant gratification rush. I don't like this instant gratification, Eugene. So what does that mean? That means no gratification, meaning gratification is put in its right place. So I'm not unnaturally seeking gratification by doing some kind of psychological work, right? Who is the one who is doing the psychological work? That is a great question. Because to me, psychologically, if there is a you involved, that's immediately a bias. If there's a me in the psychology, that to me is a split. That to me is a division, right? Me versus a clear psychology. So what I think is a clear psychology versus the one mind, which is stillness, which is not a sense of me, not a sense of my methods, all of these things. So when you observe your health habits, you need to still the mind. And actually, you could just say, when you're observing, you are still. Even if you're walking, even if you're running, even if you're in a lotus position, doesn't matter. As long as you're observing without bias, there is no me in psychology. And let me ask yourself, can you heal? Let me ask you, can you heal your trauma when you are so rooted in the me that you can't observe your own trauma? So as long as I add worth and struggle and value to my trauma, it becomes my privilege. And because I have this privilege of being traumatized and someone has done me wrong, I deserve entitlement. Right? So I'm saying question that and look at that. If you look at that, then there is no me. There is just the trauma. And then that is when the healing happens. That is when the food habits are changed. That is when the building blocks, the strong foundation is built, is a clear observation. Not trying to observe to get something out of life, but just observing for the sake of life. So I'm saying die to your trauma. That's the only way you're going to heal your trauma. That's the only way you can end your trauma, is to face it and say, okay, something here is wrong. Something here is disorderly. There's disorderly conduct. So now, instead of focusing on a concept of being orderly, focusing on a concept of psychological healing, let's just eat better. Let's just focus on the animal and what the animal is doing first before we get to the angel. Let's sort out the animal's problems first. The problem of desire, the problem of thought, the problem of the beast first. What is this beast eating? So after that is sorted out, again, let's do 3 steps for people, right? Because I know everyone's not on the same page here when it comes to what they're eating. Beginning is clean up as much as possible. You could, perhaps you're still eating not the greatest things. You're still eating meat, but it's the best quality meat. You're still eating hybrid vegetables, but it's still fresh, and that's going to be better than processed, stored preservative junk, right? And then hormone injected carcass, all this kind of stuff. And then step 2 is get rid of the carcass. Your anatomy is a primate, which is a frugivore. You don't need carcass, right? Focus on Dr. Sebi's diet. Get rid of the hybrids. Don't allow for any chance of metabolitic waste to build up within the body. And then hyperdrive, when you want to really press the accelerator, you go to 3, which is fasting for prolonged periods of time, or going on juice cleanses for, again, prolonged periods of time, and really honing down and focusing on one fruit at a time. But I think most of us, including me, are on this step where it's intermittent fasting. So throughout the day, if I start eating at 11 or noon, it's just like a few bites of watermelon. That's it. Just water, just fruit water, right? And then towards the evening, maybe 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock might be too late for some people, but that's my kind of window, is 4 to 6. That's when I start doing a quinoa, like one quinoa thing. And then I stop eating for maybe 1 to 2 hours just to let that process. And then if I want to rehydrate myself again with certain fruits, I do that. And then repeat. And then right now I do at least one day, at least a Saturday of fresh, only fruit. So that day is my just pure cleanse day. But it would be better if on more occasions I did 3 days. And I do again, mostly fruit or just fruit and juices for 3 days. This is the medium level, by the way, guys, right? And non-hybrid. So I'm looking at fruits from Sebi's list. And so with that, then I'm really letting my body flush out. But at the same time, the other 3 or 4 days, I eat, some quinoa from 4 to 6, and I really keep that window short. Right? So it's these kinds of things. Give your body time to rest. Give your body time to be still. Give your psychology time to be still. And when your body and your psychology is still, that's when you can have the patience, have the love, have the care, have the compassion to deal with all of these things. So with an unstill mind, don't go looking for concepts of stillness. That's what I'm emphasizing here. Don't say, because I have had suffered some form of trauma in the past, I am unable to heal that trauma now. That is your conclusion. And don't bring your conclusion to me, because to me, my whole content is about an open-ended question, right? Is a constantly questioning. And maybe some statements might sound like conclusions, but it's arising from questions. And so a continual questioning, meaning never to be satisfied in some sense. To always have a distaste for what is normal, what has been answered till now. Meaning I want you to have the responsibility to look further for yourself. And don't take my word for it. Don't take Sebi's word for it. Don't take Dr. Morse's word for it. Do it. Don't just say, oh, okay, I wrote it down on my notebook and I still eat hybrids and I still eat acid. Okay? So, yeah, I didn't want to make this too long. Justin actually has a Telegram chat going on right now, and I might want to go see what's happening towards the end of that. And I want to leave you guys with that message that, again, healing is love. I love you guys. It's tough love. Because love, there's no space for conflict in love. So if you're eating things that are conflicting, that are causing conflict within the body, that's not love. So I love you guys. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.